In 2001, a little movie was released that became an instant classic. That movie was Harry Potter, a group of kids using their wands and robes going on fun magic adventures. Fast forward to February 15th, 2005, in Japan, and Maho Sentai Magi Ranger would make its way onto the scene. Following 5 siblings who train in the way of magic to stop the evil forces. Combining wizardry with all the fun tokusatsu elements of Super Sentai, it seems like it would be impossible for this to fail. And naturally, fast forward 1 more year, and Magi Ranger would be adapted into the topic of today's video, Power Rangers Mystic Force. Now, it's time for me to be honest again. I didn't really like Harry Potter. I thought wizards were kinda lame, so when I saw what was essentially going to be Harry Potter Power Rangers, I avoided it like the plague, and continue to do so for the rest of my life. Until today. With an open mind, we're going to dive into a season I once again have no history, knowledge, or opinion of. So, was Mystic Force able to cast a spell on me and fall in love with the season? Was I a big dummy for avoiding it for all these years? Well, let's find out. Broken Spell Part 1. We open up a long time ago in a far-off dimension where a war was had between an evil army and a small team of wizards. The wizards eventually managed to seal the evil forces in the depths of the underworld, but at the cost of sacrificing their own lives. Cut to modern day and we get introduced to our heroes. There's Nick, the motorcycle-riding vagrant heading to the town of Briarwood. Inside of Briarwood, there's a music store where 4 friends work. There's Chip, the goofy silly guy, sisters Madison and V, V being a rough and tough no-nonsense kind of girl, and Madison, the nicer of the two. And lastly, there's Xander, the cocky but lovable jerk.
Fire! I'm supervising. Hey, it's not as easy as it looks.
They get approached by an old man saying his brother got lost in the woods, but nobody offers to help, since anyone who goes into those woods never comes back. Nick, however, quickly volunteers, being new in town and not being afraid of the urban legends, where V and Chip also muster up the courage to join in. Although, maybe they should be afraid, considering someone, or something, has appeared in Briarwood. An evil-looking ranger named Korag the Night Wolf. Back at the forest, Xander and Madison join in the search. It's not long though until they're completely lost. Things go from bad to worse when the gang realize they're being stalked by a hooded figure, and jumped by some creatures. However, the hooded figure ends up saving the gang, putting them on flying brooms and taking them to safety. Eventually, they all stumble into some kind of command center, and are greeted by that hooded figure. She reveals herself as Udana, trying to explain what's going on. Stepping into this forest actually transports everyone to an alternate dimension, the same dimension where that great war was fought many years ago, and those evil forces have now returned. But as the legend goes, 5 new heroes will emerge to stop it. She gives the 5 their wands. However, everyone's a bit skeptical. Udana goes to fight some evil intruders, leaving her bumbling apprentice Claire in charge. She's a lot like Boom. Dumb, but well-meaning. The gang stumble upon a helpless village, where everyone's happy to see their new saviors. Just then, a giant troll shows up, and Udana shows these teens what's in store, using a little incantation.
Magical source, Mystic Force! Flurry of snow!
Transforming herself into the White Mystic Ranger. While she does battle with the troll, everyone else fights off the Hidiacs, this season's foot soldiers. We don't really get a good look at the Hidiacs, but they actually do have a really cool design, looking like disgusting trypophobia bug monsters. They fit really well with the fantasy setting. The 5 try to fight off the Hidiacs but are overpowered, Udana telling them that if they want their magic to work, all they have to do is believe. Naturally, it's the man-child Chip who unlocks the power first, and unleashing a fury of lightning onto the villains. One by one, everyone follows suit. Xander having the power of earth and controlling vines and roots, Madison the power of water, V the power of wind, and Nick, nothing. Saying that he believes, but clearly just saying it. Nick saying that this isn't for him, choosing to leave. Part 1 ends with Korag showing up and confronting our heroes. Broken Spell Part 2. Korag makes his powers known, growing giant and becoming a centaur, with Udana following suit. The two have an intense fight, but ends with Korag on top, and stealing Udana's wand, leaving her powerless. Also, this is Mordecon. Him and Korag aren't the big baddies of this season, more so generals serving a greater evil force we don't know about yet. The Rangers are now more receptive to their duties as heroes, Udana transforming their wands into cell phones, their mystic morphers. Also, the trees are teleportation devices. Madison finds Nick working on his bike, having what seems to be some kind of romantic interest in Nick, asking him to stay in Briarwood and reconsider joining the team. He shuts her down, but feels bad, eventually opening up to her, saying how his parents are out of the country doing work and he's been hopping around living with different relatives, never getting comfortable in one place or making a real friend. Duty calls though, and the Rangers head back to the forest to defend the village. With these cool new wizard outfits, they once again fight the Hideax, but this time they have their Mystic Morphers. And with that same incantation,
Magic Source! Mystic Force!
Go with Mr. Ranger!
they transform into the Mystic Force Rangers, using spells and martial arts combined to beat up the villains. They have their wands that act both as traditional wands to conjure magic, as well as transforming them into more traditional weapons, like a crossbow or axe. All is going well until Korag shows up. Nick gets a vision of the battle and knows he can't leave them behind. So he heads to the forest to fight Korag unmorphed. And it's here where he finally believes in magic, granting him a cool robe, the power of fire, and his morpher.
Magical Source! Mystic Force! Red Mystic Ranger!
His wand transforms into a sword, and it's one of the cleanest looking swords in Power Rangers. The Mystic Force suits themselves are awesome, probably the most unique suits ever, having a cape attached to them. The helmets also have cool iconography on it, representing each Ranger's power and ability. The body of the suits are also very simple, with black and gold being the complementary colors. And the girls have white leggings. The simplicity of the body's design also looks like it's imitating a wizard's robe. Kinda. The Rangers manage to send Korag retreating, for now. And the episode ends with Nick getting a job at the music store, where maybe now he can finally make some real friends. Broken Spell is an excellent two-parter, once again using all of episode 1 and most of episode 2 to build up the characters, villains, and world, as opposed to just getting straight into the Power Rangers fun. I also really like the characters so far. The best way to describe it is that if the Mighty Morphin team was the perfect embodiment of cheesy 90s sitcom teenagers, then Mystic Force is the perfect embodiment of real teenagers in the mid-2000s. Xander is your arrogant loudmouth who shops at Hollister. He's so cocky that he has a strategy dubbed Plan Xander. Yeah, just in these opening episodes alone, he used it twice. Plan Xander is where he just tries to talk things out with his charm and personality.
Hi, I'm Xander.
V is your edgy, kinda scene girl who shops at Hot Topic, takes no nonsense, speaks her mind, and hates pink. Ironically enough. Madison is always filming, which young kids would get more and more into with the rise of YouTube. There's always gonna be the weird kid with chip, aka me, and Nick has that perfectly angsty vibe that makes him just relatable and charming enough. Udana is a nice mentor, actually teaching the Rangers how to use magic and become wizards. I like how we got to see how powerful she really is right off the bat, battling Korag and having full control of her powers. It allows us the viewers to trust her as a mentor, and it's also kinda like Symphony of the Night, you know, where you start off as Richter and Alucard with all of your abilities and are super powerful, only to then have them taken away and be reset to nothing. Now, characters and world and story are cool and all, but what really matters in Power Rangers is the theme song. Mystic Force starts up with this magical tune full of wonder and intrigue, before transitioning into a rap. For the first time ever, a Power Rangers theme song isn't a rock tune. Now, when I was younger and found Power Rangers opening theme compilations on YouTube, I didn't like this opening. I initially thought the song just didn't have enough energy or a catchy chorus. However, as I've grown up, I found a real appreciation for the opening, especially with the There was a demo theme song recorded and sung by Ron Wasserman. Alright, he's a Power Rangers legend. Let's see what he's got. Well, it's okay. I think it could have been used during fights. Let's try that out. Yeah, I guess a good battle theme, but as an opening that's meant to give the show its identity, I think the rap actually does fit better. There's a bit more of a mystical element to it, and a cool, chill vibe that really matches these characters. So with all of that being said, let's continue forward with Mystic Force. Codebusters. We open up on Claire doing a fetch quest. During this, she gets attacked by a giant worm, but gets saved by a mysterious-looking creature. Meanwhile, the Rangers are learning more wizardry from Udana. She mentions how they'll be able to unlock new powers and abilities as they grow as heroes. However, Chip and V are a little impatient, wanting all the cool gadgets and powers now. So instead of doing their wizard homework, they set up a Heroes for Hire business to do some menial good deeds and get the cool stuff. Meanwhile, Nick, Madison, and Xander run into another general, Necroli. Luckily though, Xander executes Plan Xander.
I'm sure we can just talk this one out.
The three get into a fight, however, Necroli is really powerful. Back at Root Core, the command center, V and Chip are disappointed to see that they haven't unlocked new powers. Udana saying that that's not how being a hero works. And when they see the other Rangers in peril, the two are terrified, with Udana playing into it, saying how much of a disadvantage V and Chip are in. The two are scared, but ultimately push through that fear to save their friends, defeating the monster and saving the others. The monster then grows. Luckily though, due to Chip and V's actual heroic deed, they unlock a new ability, growing big themselves and transforming into the Zords, dubbed as Mystic Titans.
Ancient power, Mystic Titans!
It's pretty cool honestly, and feels thematically appropriate. After winning the fight and the two learning their lesson, Nick goes into the forest to investigate that giant worm, running into that creature that saved Claire. This is Phineas, and he is a Troblin. Half troll, half goblin, being exiled by both races for being a halfling. Now personally, I would never do that. However, I would exile Phineas because his voice is super annoying. It sounds like he constantly has gas and needs to let it out from either end.
He wants to know what we're doing here. Well, I don't think you should tell him.
They find the giant worm and learn that their Titan mode have more uses, with everyone but Nick combining to make a dragon and Nick getting to ride it. It's very reminiscent of Mighty Morphin Season 2 with the Thunderzord assault team. The episode ends with Phineas befriending the Rangers, warning Nick of the true evil that lies ahead, the supreme master of the underworld. Rock solid. We start off with Madison. You know what? I'm just gonna call her Maddie from here on out. Maddie is filming her friends doing all kinds of goofy things and just being themselves. However, when Nick sees this, he criticizes her, saying that she's always hiding behind that camera and not living life herself. This naturally upsets Maddie, who storms off to prove that she's not a boring person, especially after another side character named Lily joins in the bullying. Lily's character is that she's the local biznatch. We see Maddie trying to break out of her shell and talk to a cute boy. However, another monster attacks the town. The monster eventually finds Maddie and turns her into stone, with even Udana unable to change her back to normal with her magic. V is enraged with what happened to her sister, with Nick not being any help.
She shouldn't have been out there alone. She probably got in over her head, V. That's why she's always hiding behind that camera.
Not wanting to let her sister be disrespected, V shows Nick why Maddie is always filming everyone. Maddie makes these home movies, or what's better known nowadays as vlogs, because this is how she expresses herself. This is her way of showing love and appreciation to her friends. She is a bit shy and a bit awkward, but when she makes these videos, she's able to let her heart out fully. She even has a little entry about Nick, mentioning how he's a friend despite not knowing him for long. Nick naturally feels a bit like a big jerk, although he does unlock a new spell for this, being granted the new motorcycle now available at Walmart. They fight the bad guy and break the spell, freeing Maddie, who joins back up with the team.
Magical source, Mystic Force!
Not only that, but she unlocked a new spell too, the ability to combine all of their Mystic Titans to create the Titan Megazord. The Rangers now also existing subconsciously inside of a cockpit where they control the Megazord with chess. The Titan Megazord is super cool, especially when it spreads its dragon wings. Also, he looks like he's got a little wizard hat on. Aww. Destroy your opponent! The episode ends with Maddie continuing her vlogs, and Nick of course now fully understanding her. This episode hits especially hard nowadays, considering so many people, myself included, get to express themselves through video. In 2005, 2006, it was still a bit of a niche thing, but fast forward to today, and this episode single-handedly probably made Maddie the most relatable character in Power Rangers history. Whispering voices. Korak puts a curse on Nick to hear voices in his head, constantly telling him that he's not loved and nobody wants him around. Meanwhile, Lily tries to ask out Nick, but when he rejects her, she wants revenge. Xander is supposed to deposit money from the store to the bank. However, Lily hid that money and hinted to Xander that it was possibly Nick who did it. And he falls for it, telling the others that he thinks Nick stole the money. And they fall for it! So when they confront Nick about it, he's naturally upset and just drives off. Korag then attacks, Nick realizing that it's his doing behind the voices. So they fight it out. Toby, this is Toby by the way, he owns the music store, says that he found the money behind a register. Toby says that Nick is the most trustworthy and honest guy he knows. The Rangers show up to help and apologize to Nick. His influence over Nick's mind though becomes overwhelming. Just then though, Nick is able to break free from Korag's spell and fight back. The episode ends with everyone making up and promising to not keep any more secrets from each other, where Nick immediately reveals he has some kind of secret. Legendary Catastros. Udana tells the Rangers a tale about the legendary Catastros, a mighty steed who fought against the forces of evil. However, he was dragged into the deepest depths of the underworld, now being a servant of evil. During another fight, the Rangers send Korag fleeing. However, while he's casting a spell to open up a seal, Nick jumps in and interrupts it, causing him to be transported to a strange dimension, where he can't morph or contact the others. While traversing this land though, Nick runs into Catastros, who chases him all around. Meanwhile, the Rangers come up with a plan to say the incantation Korag used to open the demonic seal, but now say it backwards. You know what? Why not? Back in the purple dimension, we see Catastros was injured during the Zord fight, since Catastros is the horse half of Korag's centaur form. Nick is still scared, but eventually decides to help the poor animal, using his magic to heal the wound. Catastros is thankful for this and even lets Nick ride him. Chip remembers the incantation and says it in reverse, opening up a portal where Nick in his Mystic Titan form is able to combine with Catastros, creating the Centaurus Phoenix Megazord. This thing has got some awesome moves, flailing its head all around and creating a flame whip, defeating the monster. However, when Korag calls for Catastros, it comes running back to him. Korag says he's not sure how Nick was able to tame Catastros, but senses that something about Nick is troubling. Fireheart. Necroli and a taxi monster attack town, so Nick and V go to investigate.
Magical source! Mystic force!
They get their butts kicked, but see that Necroli has a map. So back at Root Core, they investigate the footage and are able to use magic to recreate the map. Udana recognizes this as the map to the Fireheart, an ancient artifact that wields great power. The Rangers are sent on a quest to navigate the Sumerian forest, with Xander taking the lead and giving directions, despite clearly having no idea on where to go. Eventually, Phineas shows up and knows these woods like the back of his hand, so Nick and V decide to follow Phineas, with Xander saying he'll cover Chip and Maddie's shift at the music store if they follow him, which they agree to. Nick and V make it to the location, finding another map. However, Necroli was right on their trail and ambushes the two, leading to a really impressive unmorphed fight. Back with Team Xander, they get caught in a web and are approached by a giant spider that I once again need to censor because blech! Luckily, good guy Phineas shows up and saves the three and sends them in the right direction. Together, they destroy the taxi monster, and as Necroli tries to sneak off with the map to the Fireheart, V jumps down and tries to take it, ripping the map in half in the process, with the forces of good and evil both being close to finding the Fireheart. Stranger Within. Lily shows up to try and ask out Nick again, wanting to take him to a DJ. However, he turns her down, saying that him and the gang have plans. However, V, being the music fan, takes Lily up on her offer. At the show, V is having a great time, almost like she's hypnotized by the music. Lily has to leave early though since she didn't do her homework and her mom's chewing her out. However, it's revealed that the DJ was actually a monster and V was under some kind of hypnosis. V eventually shows up, with Nick chewing her out for being late. However, she seems pretty unbothered by everything. When the Hideax show up, V is more aggressive in nature, gladly fighting them all by herself, completely unmorphed. And when Korag shows up, she once again demands to fight him by herself, which she's quickly shut down for doing, waking up and not knowing what's going on. And the next day, she's hiding from the sunlight, sleeping all day, and has pale skin. Chip, being the little nerd he is, deduces that V is a vampire. Oh, Chip, you're so silly. Oh god! At Root Core, Chip tries to expose V for being a vampire. Everyone laughs at him. But as we already know, Chip is able to use his vampire knowledge to keep V in check. Sometimes she's in control, other times the vampire half is. No matter what though, Chip promises to protect his friend. They head back to the club and realize that everyone there is a vampire. Chip has a chance to destroy the monster, but instead saves V from a blast. V saying that Chip shouldn't always focus on saving someone, that sometimes the sacrifice of one is needed to save everyone else. But Chip doesn't see it that way. He wants to protect his friend above everything else. The Rangers eventually learn that Chip wasn't lying, so they all regroup to do battle with that DJ monster. They destroy it and return V back to normal. At the music shop, everyone apologizes to Chip for doubting him, and actually try to learn his vampire teachings. He mentions how vampires can't escape a circle you draw on the floor, so naturally, goofy old Chip draws a circle around V, where then V is still a vampire. Stranger Within Part 2. They manage to meet up with Korag, who says that if they want to free V of her curse, they need to stop Necroli. But why is Korag telling them this? He believes that if they're strong enough to defeat Necroli, only then does he feel like they are worthy of battling him. V manages to trick the Rangers into letting her go, disguising herself as Claire. The Rangers look into the tome and learn that the only way to stop Necroli is to craft a Dawn Crystal, which Chip takes on the responsibility of doing. As mentioned, Necroli has V under her control, using her as her vampire slave. But luckily, Chip has finished the Dawn Crystal and just needs to get close to shoot it at Necroli. But V keeps getting in his way, knowing full well that Chip won't fight back. However, he's temporarily able to break V of the curse with the power of friendship, using that opening to get the upper hand on Necroli, removing the vampire curse for real this time. The episode ends with Lily walking home and getting attacked by Necroli, but she puts up a good fight. Only for Necroli to tell her that living with the humans has made her weak, where it's revealed to the audience that Necroli is Lily's mother. Knowing that now and watching the previous episodes, it makes a lot of sense as to why she's such an unlikable person. Everything was done in the name of the underworld, to cause issues with the Rangers in their real life so it hopefully affects their Ranger duties. And it's been pretty effectful. Gaslighting everyone into thinking Nick was a thief, the vampire DJ scheme, good stuff. The two-parter was also very charming. The Chip and V friendship is super wholesome, considering they're the two characters you think wouldn't get along, based off their personalities alone. Petrified Xander. Xander has a zit and is absolutely mortified by it. He sees that Claire made a perfection potion and uses it on himself. It works temporarily, but has some side effects. Xander now slowly turning into a tree. I do say slowly, because in the meantime, the Rangers manage to use their half of the map to track down the Fireheart. It's inside of a treasure chest that requires some puzzle solving, so the Rangers take it to Toby since he's apparently really good at solving puzzles. I don't know, man, that kind of feels like cheating. While Toby's doing that, Xander's tree transformation is getting worse, so the Rangers need to fight a monster while Claire and V work on an antidote, eventually returning Xander to normal, while also learning to not be such a jerk about people's appearances ever again. This grants him a cool new spell code that grants him the power of boxing gloves. Now, look, this is stupid. So they defeat the bad guys, and when they return back to the music shop, Toby has actually managed to open the chest. And heading back to Root Core, the Rangers reveal what's inside. An egg. Not just any egg though, but the last dragon egg. The Gatekeeper. Mordecon wants to be freed from the underworld. They abduct someone known as the Oracle and force him to tell them how to be free. He says that only the Gatekeeper is able to free them, but they were destroyed in that same battle. But the Oracle says that another Gatekeeper is out there. Meanwhile, Claire is having more difficulties than usual with her magic, losing faith in herself completely. Udana gives her some encouraging words, saying that's exactly how Claire's mother was in the beginning too. Clumsy and bumbling, until eventually becoming a great wizard. It's also here we learn that Claire is Udana's niece. Korag gets the jump on these two and kidnaps Udana, using her as bait to lure out the Gatekeeper. Meanwhile, Necroli is fighting the Rangers. Claire sees that they're in danger, and with no other choice, finds her mother's headpiece and confronts Necroli. And when she puts on that headpiece,
Power of the shining moon! Behold the Gatekeeper!
Claire's mother was the original Gatekeeper who sealed away the evil forces, and Claire will eventually be the one to take on that role. Imbued with her mother's power through that headpiece, Claire now becomes an insanely powerful wizard. Later on, Korag sends our heroes a message that if they want to see Udana alive again, then Claire has to fight him one-on-one. The Rangers shockingly go along with the plan, having a bit of overconfidence since Claire now possesses that great power. and while she does manage to hold her own for a bit against Korag, he ultimately overpowers and defeats her, using Claire's power to open the seal and allow the gates of the underworld to be released to the surface. The Gatekeeper Part 2. With the seal now being broken, Mordecon doesn't waste any time, immediately attacking Earth, with the Rangers defending it. The entire episode is an intense battle between the Rangers and Mordecon, tanking the Megazord's final strike while putting the Zords out of commission, completely unmorphing the Rangers in the process. And with Udana and Claire now being held prisoner, the Rangers have never been more alone and overpowered.
Donna said we were the protectors of the city, and that's what we're gonna do.
Magical sauce! Mystic force!
The Rangers get back up and keep fighting, being the light the city needs no matter how dark it gets. Nick is able to find Udana and Claire, who's being held prisoner by Korag, with Nick now challenging him to a one-on-one fight. Both are incredibly strong, but the fight ends with Nick getting the upper hand, saving both Udana and Claire, with Korag seemingly being destroyed. But he's actually alive. Nick is once again able to tame Catastros, and with that power, along with Udana's magic, the Rangers are able to destroy Mordecon, leaving the forces of evil considerably weakened. The episode ends with Claire giving up her mother's power until she's ready, and Korag grabbing Mordecon's sword, having some kind of devious plan up his sleeve. Scaredy Cat. The Rangers go on another quest. They're searching a cave and Maddie runs into a frog. Oh, it's so scary. Eventually they come across a magic lamp. After rubbing said lamp, a giant, talking, stupid, annoying cat named Genji comes out. He says he can grant wishes, but he's clearly a big, dumb, stupid liar phony. Meanwhile, another powerful general enters the picture, Imperius. Imperius is very powerful, asserting his dominance by easily laying the smackdown on the Rangers, eventually growing super size. Yeah, not just normal big, but so big to the point that he towers over the Rangers in their Megazord. Genji up to this point has still been completely useless, but eventually decides to be helpful and grows supersize himself, using the Megazord as a missile to land a solid strike on Imperius, sending him fleeing. The episode ends with Udana being happy to see Genji, clearly having some kind of history with him. She asks if he's seen someone named Bowen. Before he can answer her though, Claire interrupts to show everyone that the dragon egg has hatched, and Fireheart has been born. Long ago, the Rangers get an alert of an evil energy in the forest. However, all they find is someone named Kalendor, one of Udana's close friends and allies from back in the day. However, everyone else gets a weird vibe from him, mainly Phineas and Claire. Udana asks about another one of their allies named Daggeron, with Kalendor saying that Daggeron betrayed everyone and he had to stop him. Meanwhile, the Rangers are doing battle with a monster. Phineas and Claire eventually meet up, with Phineas saying how he was there at the war many years ago, and says that Kalendor is lying. Kalendor is the one who turned on Daggeron. The truth eventually comes out, and it's revealed that this is actually Imperius. Back with the Rangers, Maddie gets saved by a frog. She's so grateful, in fact, that she gives it a kiss. Oh, come on, Maddie, what is this, a fairy tale? Oh, where out comes a handsome man, thanking Maddie, saying that she broke the curse. Not only that, but he has another trick up his sleeve.
Magical source! Mystic force! Power of the sun! Solaris Knight!
This is the Solaris Knight, with his main weapon being Genji's magic lamp that transforms into a gun. Okay, you know what? I definitely give it points for creativity. The Solaris Knight single-handedly wipes out all the Hidiacs and destroys the monster, before quickly needing to head back to Root Core to save Udana, where Udana recognizes this man as Daggeron. The two do some catching up, with Daggeron explaining the truth. During the war, Kalendor was taken over with dark magic, transforming him into Imperius. Udana asks about Bowen, but Daggeron doesn't know. Daggeron asks Udana about someone named Lianbo, and she says that he was destroyed. There's a lot of fantasy names with characters we haven't met yet, so it's okay if you're a little confused. The episode ends, weirdly enough, with Phineas, worried about everyone finding out about what he did. Huh. So before we continue, we first of course gotta talk about the Solaris Knight. The costume is incredibly beautiful, looking like both a wizard with a cape and a knight. The helmet, shoulder pads, greaves, his basic form looks like a Battleizer upgrade, and that's so cool. What isn't cool though is his morpher. It is a hole puncher that, it punches holes into a card. You ever go to a coffee shop and you become a rewards member, and every time you buy a coffee they punch the card? Yeah, you put that in Power Rangers. This is the stupidest thing in the world. Why this? What happens if he morphs 9 times? Is the 10th one free? Now, I write these scripts as I watch the episodes, so as I'm writing, I don't know yet. Maybe it's a gimmick. Maybe Daggeron can only morph a certain amount of times before running out of power. But even if that's the case, there's other ways to go about it. Daggeron himself seems like a cool guy so far, being the older, wiser mentor character to these young upstarts, similar to how Tommy was in Dino Thunder. I also like how Daggeron just kinda showed up. There was never a hint of another Ranger. All we got was this frog from the last episode. And where was that frog again? In the same cave where they found Genji. That is genuinely clever writing to have that frog come back. Inner strength. Daggeron is taking on the role of mentor as well, with Xander being the most difficult to teach. His easygoing, cocky personality doesn't mesh well with Daggeron's no-nonsense approach. Daggeron sends everyone to a remote dimension without their powers to try and escape. Everyone gets captured, and it's up to Xander to get serious and use Daggeron's training to save everyone. Where they find their way back home, and Xander gets gifted with a new ability.
Alright! Stronger than a tree! Ha!
He grows insanely large muscles, but only up top. He doesn't do leg day. This is so ridiculous that I can't help but love it. Hole punchers, boxing gloves, bodybuilding, I'm losing my mind. The episode ends with Daggeron and Xander making up and growing a closer bond. Oh yeah, and this is Daggeron's Megazord, the Solar Streak Megazord. It's a train, because why not? The hole punchers, magic genie lamps, trains just fit in perfectly with them. Soul Spectre. A monster gets released that steals people's souls, and when Chip sees he was unable to save every single person, he takes it especially hard, wanting to be the kind of noble hero that doesn't have to have anyone suffer. Eventually, Chip gets his soul taken, completely demoralizing him and wanting to give up. In order to reverse this curse, they need to find the Staff of Topaz. So Daggeron takes Chip on that quest while the others fight the monster. It's a draining expedition, and with Chip's soul being taken away, he just wants to give up. However, Daggeron gives him some motivation, saying that Chip truly has the heart of a knight, and when they get through this quest and get his soul back, Daggeron will train Chip in the way of the knight, motivating the two to find the staff and reverse the spell. The episode ends as Daggeron promised, personally training Chip to be a knight. It's also here we learn that Daggeron's mentor was this Lianbo character we've heard mentioned. And not only that, but Lianbo is Udana's husband. She never mentioned this because he sacrificed his life sealing the gates of the underworld, and it's hard on her. Alright, that's one mysterious character solved. Ranger down. So Genji gets jealous that everyone is paying attention to baby Fireheart. So Genji takes the little baby dragon and abandons him in the woods all alone so everyone will pay attention to him. However, everyone naturally gets upset and demands to be taken to Fireheart, where he's now missing, with the only thing left behind being Nick's blanket. It's here everyone finds out the reason why Nick has his little blanket. It's because it's the only thing he has from his birth parents. The parents that were talked about in episode 1 were actually his adopted parents. We also learn that Genji ran away since nobody wants to pay attention to him, but Daggeron says that this is dangerous, considering if Genji is away from his lamp for too long, he'll be destroyed. We learn about Genji's backstory. He was the most powerful cat thing throughout the land, but the Cat King was jealous and outcasted him. Eventually, he came across a treasure trove that Daggeron just so happened to be exploring as well. Genji opened up a cursed box, and to save him, Daggeron trapped him inside of a genie's lamp. We see Genji now living at a junkyard. But he's not there alone.
Drop the appetizer, Calico! This is my buffet!
Piggy! Yeah, he's just here chilling. Sure. Maddie eventually comes by and apologizes, and Genji redeems himself by sacrificing his last few seconds to save the Rangers and commit a selfless act, rather than to save his own life by heading back to the lamp. However, he's unfortunately not gone, because Daggeron saves him at the last second. All's well that ends well, and the episode ends with Udana and Daggeron learning Phineas's secret. During the Great War, when Kalendor and Daggeron were fighting, Phineas found a nearby baby and took it to the human world where it would be safe. That baby was Udana's, and his name was
Owen?
Finally giving our two mysterious characters their identities. Lianbo is Udana's husband, and Bowen was their child. That baby, by the way, was swathed in a red blanket. Huh. Fireheart also fully grows up in this episode. Oh yeah, and before we move on, that was also the SPD Mystic Force crossover episode. How was it? Despite how cool a crossover between the team all about technology and the team all about magic would have been, it just never happened. It's possible that it's because Mystic Force's budget and episode count was cut, Mystic Force being the shortest season of Power Rangers up to this point, with only 32 episodes, as opposed to the previous Disney seasons having 38. And with the budget being smaller, that means less money to spend on previous actors coming back. The reason Piggy showed up in this random episode, though, was because his actor, Barney Duncan, was also playing Toby this season. And you could immediately tell, I didn't want to mention it from episode 1, but from his first line in the first episode, I could tell that this was Piggy.
Piggy's the name, rummaging's the game.
The sun is shining, the birds are chirping.
And lastly, I don't care about stupid Genji. He's annoying, and every bad thing that happens to him, he brings it upon himself. I wish he died. Next episode, Dark Wish. The Rangers are becoming complacent with their magic, using it for menial day-to-day chores they could do on their own. Udana seems a little upset by this. However, she recognizes that the Rangers are naturally feeling burnt out, needing to constantly fight the bad guys while living their regular lives. Down in the underworld, Imperius revives 4 barbarian beasts to fight the Rangers. They're all incredibly cunning and strong, but Korag doesn't like this plan, because there's no honor in winning this way. The Rangers get into a fight with one of these barbarians, but are swiftly getting their butts kicked, so they tell Daggeron to just use Genji since he's powerful, but Daggeron doesn't want to do it. Meanwhile, Korag gets sick of the barbarians, fighting one, and losing, being left for the crows. However, Phineas shows up and begrudgingly helps Korag. During another fight, the Rangers are once again losing and demands that Daggeron just use Genji, which he does. However, this was all part of the Barbarians' plan, because once Genji is out of the lamp, they use their evil magic to capture him for themselves, and with Genji being cursed to that lamp, he's forced to grant them one wish. The villains naturally wishing for a world without the Mystic Force Rangers. Dark Wish Part 2. The teens come back to Briarwood, but it's clearly not the one they know, with them being the only ones remembering that they are Power Rangers, and the entire city now being controlled by Necroli, and the citizens being its slaves. Heading back to Root Core, well, there is no Root Core. Instead, the Rangers find a rambling, crazy old woman who's lost her mind, who turns out to be this new Udana, with Claire being her caretaker, explaining to the teens that there's no more good magic in the world. All seems hopeless, until Korag of all people wants to speak with the Rangers. Korag says he doesn't want the world to end up like this on these terms, once again saying there's no honor this way, which they're quick to make fun of.
You want darkness to rule the world, but not if they don't do it nicely.
However, Korag is 100% serious. He tells the Rangers they'll need to speak with the Tribunal of Magic, a group of 3 powerful wizards that have the power to undo Genji's magic. Korag transports them to the alternate dimension to find the wizards, but they're quickly confronted by hostile creatures, where they need to fight them without their powers or magic. The fight isn't very pretty. However, it's important to remember that these teens were never martial artists. Whenever they were training as Rangers, it was always with magic. However, despite being scared, they don't back down. Eventually, the fight ends and they're handed a key. Continuing through this desert a bit more brings them to 2 doors. One is seemingly back home, the home where everything is back to normal and happy. They consider going in, but Maddie says this doesn't feel right. Nick agreeing, saying they came all this way to find the Tribunal of Magic.
We go home now because we're scared, then we deserve to live the rest of our lives without magic.
They refuse and the door disintegrates, leaving only one door that has a dangerous portal.
What happens if it gets worse once we're inside?
Then it gets worse.
The teens step in and get transported to the Tribunal of Magic, pleading their case to the wizards, saying they want to use their good magic to fight evil and protect the world, with as much passion as you'd expect from the Rangers. And despite them passing the test and going through all these trials and tribulations, their wish is denied, sending them back to Briarwood, where the teens will become slaves like the rest of the town. Dark Wish Part 3. The Rangers feel absolutely devastated, seemingly losing all hope. However, when they see the citizens being abused by the villains, they can't help but want to defend them. Despite being powerless and being told they will never get their powers back, they continue to fight against the evil forces. And it turns out that this was actually another test from the Tribunal of Magic. Knowing that humans have weak spirits and tend to give up easy, they wanted to see how strong the Rangers' wills really were. And they proved themselves worthy to the wizards, reversing Genji's wish and returning good magic back to the world.
Great Magical Source! Mystic Force!
Rejuvenated with their returned powers, the Rangers lay the smack down on the villains, crushing them one by one, with the Rangers eventually being confronted once again by the Barbarians. However, it turns out that the Tribunal of Magic still have one more gift for the Rangers: a new spell code.
Legendary source, Mystic Force! Mystic Force, Legend Warriors!
Granting the Rangers the power of the Legend Warriors, a new upgrade for the team. It's a really striking design, the new helmet flares, golden greaves and chest armor, and their weapons being upgraded from wands to full-on scepters is a nice touch. The Legend Warriors mode allows the magic to become even more powerful, where together they destroy one of the Barbarians. And of course, the upgrade comes with a new Megazord, with Nick turning into the Mystic Firebird and the others turning into the Mystic Lion, creating the Manticore Megazord. And this thing is so regal. Yeah, it's so cool I busted out the word regal, destroying another one of the Barbarians. The episode ends with Korag telling the Rangers that their alliance is ended, but Nick bites back, saying they're now more powerful than they've ever been. The Dark Wish 3-parter is so good. It honestly felt like it could have been the finale or something. The stakes were high, the drama was tense, and the action was really satisfying. There is, however, one small problem I have with it. I didn't mention it during the episode because I felt like it would have interfered with the pacing. The only thing I don't like about the 3-parter is the moral, and I am using heavy air quotes on moral. In part 1, I mentioned how the Rangers were using their magic for basic day-to-day chores. Well, the moral of these episodes was that the Rangers needed to stop being lazy and taking the easy way out. It's their laziness that got Genji captured and this wish even happening. During the meeting with the Tribunal of Magic, the Wizards asked the Rangers how Genji got captured, with the Rangers saying it just happened. Things just happen. However, that clearly wasn't the answer the Wizards were looking for, which is why they got denied their wish. And when they got their power-ups, it's only because they all said out loud, "We got lazy, we shouldn't have been looking for shortcuts." And honestly, that's stupid! Why is it lazy that the Rangers want to use all of their available weapons and forces to fight the bad guys? There's an active threat on Earth. So yeah, a dumb lesson in its execution, but still an amazing random 3-parter. Korag's trial. Imperius is sick and tired of this whole Korag constantly not destroying the Rangers thing when he has the chance, so he gets put on trial in front of the Master, having a small montage involving every time Korag let the Rangers live. And to be fair, if I was a villain, oh yeah, he is 100% guilty. However, Korag doesn't take this lying down, mentioning how Imperius can't be trusted since he was once Kalendor. The Master gets sick of all this bickering and says whichever of the two defeats the Solaris Knights, the other will be banished, but ends with neither Korag or Imperius destroying Daggeron. Back at the Underworld though, the two are able to convince the Master to let them both continue serving him. And the episode ends with Korag having visions of Bowen swathed in that red blanket. Heir Apparent. Chip accidentally lets it slide that he knows about Lianbo. Udana then goes into detail about what we already kinda know. Her and Lianbo had their baby Bowen, and during the Great War, Lianbo stayed behind to fight and entrusted Daggeron to keep Bowen safe, where we now know he was jumped and Phineas transported Bowen to the human world. Korag and a Chimera monster attack the Rangers, the Chimera monster being a product of a forbidden spell, making it incredibly powerful. Even powered up, the Rangers are no match for the two, being defeated and transported to the Underworld, where they also finally learn about Lily's true identity. Imperius uses another dark spell to steal the Rangers' magic to give to the Master. Udana, meanwhile, realizes the only thing she can do to help is use a forbidden spell herself to transport her to the Underworld. She does so and confronts Imperius. However, she's overpowered and starts getting her magic drained for the Master. During this though, Korag starts getting a flurry of flashbacks, before jumping in and saving Udana, shedding his armor form and revealing a man.
Lianbo?
Heir Apparent Part 2. Lianbo seems to be back to his senses, and together he teleports Udana and the Rangers to safety. Lianbo explains how after he sealed away the evil forces, the Master took control of him and brainwashed him to fight for the darkness. Everyone's naturally a little hesitant, especially Nick, since Korag has essentially been literally living in his head this entire time. But Udana trusts him. She also lost her power since she used the forbidden spell, and to make matters worse, Imperius shows up and once again puts Lianbo under the evil influence, where he fights with Nick. This time an honorable one-on-one, a fight until the last person stands. Udana, meanwhile, has fallen into a bit of a depression, not only losing her magic, but once again losing Lianbo, and this time it could be forever. However, Claire reveals something that catches Udana's eye. Nick's red blanket. Everything becomes clear. She runs down to the fight between Nick and Korag and reveals the truth to everyone.
This is Bowen, your child.
Once again, this passion manages to break Lianbo free from the curse. Just then, the Master has siphoned enough of the Ranger's magic from the previous episode to break free onto the surface world, where Lianbo takes on the responsibility of sending back to where he came from again, seemingly destroying him while trapping the rest of the dark forces in the underworld, but once again at the cost of his own life. On a positive note though, Daggeron has been doing battle with Imperius, where he's destroyed by Daggeron. The episode ends with Nick and Udana sharing some funny moments as newly discovered mother and son. Udana says that she believes Lianbo will come back. He's done it once, and he can do it again. This is a really solid two-parter. Since this is a season I never saw as a kid, I was pretty hooked on this whole Lianbo-Bowen story. Learning that Nick is the child of these powerful wizards genuinely caught me off guard. The Light. Necroli and Lily survived Lianbo's attack, where Necroli finds something called the Book of Prophecy that will tell the future. Meanwhile, Lily is starting to question her role in everything, not sure if she wants to be evil anymore. Udana calls for a meeting with the Rangers. However, Toby's getting a little curious as to why they're always leaving so suddenly. Luckily, Chip has the perfect answer.
We're the Power Rangers, and we have to go fight the bad guys.
Toby, of course, doesn't believe him. At Root Core, Udana tells everyone that she's leaving. She's going on a quest to look for Lianbo, knowing in her heart that he's still out there, and without any powers, she won't be any use to the Rangers. Before they can try to talk her out of it, another dark gate opens up on the surface world, and out come 10 powerful warriors, dubbed the 10 Terrors. I'm not even gonna pretend like they're all important. The only two you really need to know are Sculpin, who seems to be the leader, and Itasis, the brains of the operation. They say they're here to find and capture the Light, a powerful entity that can revive the Master. The Rangers try to fight head-on, but are quickly shut down. Feeling a bit overwhelmed, Nick sulks in the forest, where Phineas drops another bombshell. Nick himself is the Light. The Light is the child of Udana and Lianbo, the greatest wizard and the greatest warrior of all time. One of the terrors named Magma attacks town, but proposes a game to the Rangers. If a single one of them is still standing by the time the flame is out, they win. The Rangers form the Manticore Megazord and fight. It's a tough battle, but the Rangers are still standing, and for his failure, the other 9 terrors strike down Magma for losing the game. The 10 terrors are living with honor. The Rangers' happiness, though, is short-lived when they see that Lily now has a job at the music store. The Hunter. The Rangers naturally don't trust Lily, but she actually is wanting to reform her life. Claire also joins Udana in her search for Lianbo, saying that she has magic and will only be a benefit to Udana. Nick is still trying to wrap his head around this whole light thing, especially when Daggeron mentioned something about learning his true power and connection to Fireheart. One of the terrors named Oculus starts attacking town, hunting down the Rangers one by one and capturing them, where Oculus proposes a game of his own. If Nick can defeat him in battle, he'll let everyone go. Phineas finds Nick again and gives him some motivation, or his words accidentally inspire Nick.
What does your heart tell you?
Knowing what Daggeron meant, Nick confronts Oculus, with a little surprise in store. Transforming Nick into his Battleizer mode, the Red Dragon Fire Ranger, which is probably the coolest name ever. The Battleizer suit itself is pretty low-key compared to most seasons. Some blue and gold armor pieces and a fancy helmet. He also gets the best of both worlds, with a sword and a wand. With this power-up, Nick beats up every single villain in his path in a very showy way. And, oh wait, this thing's got dragon wings! Okay, it's the best design ever! He destroys Oculus, saves his friends, and Lily gets Employee of the Month. Hardheads. Nick is trying out some DJ work, and V gets upset that he's using her equipment, so the two spend the entire episode bickering with each other. Until they realize that's not right, and they make up. They defeat the bad guy, and yeah. A pretty standard Power Rangers episode. The Snow Prince. Daggeron and Nick are training. Daggeron says that Nick needs to follow the rules and be more serious, but Nick says he just does things his own way, and while unconventional, usually works out. The two then get interrupted by someone named the Snow Prince, who's one of the original Mystic Wizards. He says he's been watching over the Rangers, and puts Nick in charge of teaching Daggeron. One of the terrors attacks the city and Nick leads the charge, constantly just fighting head-on until they find its weakness. But Daggeron doesn't like this plan, saying it's reckless. The Snow Prince intervenes and tells Daggeron that he's disappointed in him, telling him to just stay back while him and the Rangers fight the villains. Daggeron's a bit confused, but after a talk with Phineas, he also accidentally learns a lesson, that sometimes it's okay to break the rules and do things your own way, thinking outside the box and taking chances. So together, they all destroy whoever this is. The episode ends with Udonna and Claire finding the source of Lianbo's energy, to a place called the Lake of Lament. However, the two get jumped by Hecatoid, he'll be important for a bit, so I guess we should learn his name, knocking out Claire and kidnapping Udonna. Light source. Nick says something pretty harsh to Lily, so much so that even the other Rangers felt bad for her. Although, Nick does bring up a good point. They have zero reason to believe that Lily has changed. Hecatoid kidnapped Udonna, so the Rangers won't be able to destroy him if they ever want to see her again. He also laid hundreds of eggs in the sky and that will hatch onto Briarwood. During all of this, we mainly follow Lily. She goes to her mom to ask her if she would still love her if she didn't want to become the new vampire queen, which Necroli quickly shoots down, calling her weak. She runs into Phineas in the forest, who lends her an ear, saying how he relates to her. Phineas is outcasted by both trolls and goblins, and Lily is outcasted by the forces of good and evil. The two end up hitting it off pretty well, with Lily deciding that she's going to show the Rangers she's on the side of good, by going to the underworld and saving Udonna herself. Phineas tags along and the two run into Claire, who's hesitant, but ultimately agrees to join. And Chip says this for some reason.
What can I say? I'm a gamer.
No doubt!
Light Source Part 2. Lily helps Phineas and Claire sneak into the underworld by pretending she's still evil. Inside, they find Udonna, but she gets jumped since Lily's not alone. Phineas, though, says he'll protect them. Yeah, right, what's he gonna do? Burp in their faces until they submit? I'm sorry, Phineas, I clearly was not aware of your game. Lily also seems to be very, very impressed. Meanwhile, the Rangers are still struggling to fight Hecatoid. Nick feeling extra guilty, saying if he just stayed on his motorcycle and never stopped into town, none of this would have ever happened. But Xander gives him a heart-to-heart, saying how he was once new in town also, and had no friends. He knows what Nick is going through, but he says that they're friends now, and sticking together is what's most important. Lily also managed to snag Udonna's wand from Necroli, so with the wand, Claire's magic, and Phineas and Lily's belief, they revive Udonna and restore her with her powers. She heads back to Earth and reinvigorates the Rangers with more power and resolve, with Toby having a front row seat to it all.
Legendary source! Mystic Force!
It was true.
And with their powers combined, destroy Hecatoid. And with Lily proving herself to the Rangers, they finally accept her as their friend and ally. However, back in the underworld, Sculpin steals Lianbo's powers and gives it to the Master to energize and revive him. The Return. The Rangers come face to face with another terror, Matumbo. However, he's different from the others, considering he actually doesn't want to be evil. He saves a kid from getting hit by a car, and when V sees this, she senses that he's good. However, the terrors don't take kindly to this and want to destroy Matumbo, with V adamantly protecting him, where somehow V and Matumbo end up on a train and travel to another dimension, I think. Before the other Rangers can figure out what's going on, Itasis shows up. She will tell the Rangers where V is, if the Rangers tell her how they keep winning. Considering the terrors are significantly stronger, and the Rangers tell her that they have one thing the Dark Forces will never have. A heart! No. Well, kinda.
Courage.
V manages to take Matumbo to safety before returning to the others to do battle with another terror, wiping out the Rangers, and right before he shoots a powerful blast at them, Lianbo appears to save everyone, along with his Mystic Morpher.
Magical source! Mystic force!
Wolf Warrior, defender of truth.
Sporting a new red suit, he destroys one of the terrors. However, Sculpin finds Matumbo and strikes him down, using his body as a vessel for the Master to take a physical form. The episode ends with the Master now ready and able to rain chaos onto Earth. And with that, leads us to the two-part finale of Mystic Force. Mystic Fate Part 1. With only a few terrors remaining and the Master now with the physical body, the takeover of Earth is imminent, telling Necroli that all humans will be destroyed in the process. However, Necroli is now worried about her daughter, who will be a victim of this. The Rangers then fight Itasis. However, just like Matumbo, she's not pure evil. Her main purpose seems that she seeks to learn the knowledge of everything. And after winning the fight, the Rangers call her out, saying she's nothing more than a puppet not thinking for herself. Later on in the forest, we see that the village was attacked, and everyone is fearful of the Rangers, saying no humans are allowed in anymore. And they all run away when they see the culprit of who attacked them, Nick. The Rangers all believe this is some sort of misunderstanding, but Nick shows everyone that it was him who did this, attacking Lianbo shortly after. We see that Nick is actually under the curse of Korag, forcing a fight with Lianbo. It goes on for a bit until Lianbo breaks through to Nick, the same way they all did for him, freeing Nick of the spell. Back at Root Core, the Snow Prince shows up badly wounded. The Master has destroyed his realm and has also destroyed the Mystic Mother. Who's the Mystic Mother exactly? She's the Empress of Good Magic and the leader of the Mystic Ones. And at one point, she was someone you and I have known since the beginning. Not the beginning of Mystic Force, but the beginning of it all.
After 10,000 years, I'm free!
Yes, this is actually Rita Repulsa. But wait, you may ask, at the end of Power Rangers in Space, didn't the Z-Wave just turn her into a human? Well, yes, but I guess it also split her energy into two forces, good energy and bad energy. The good one was used to give life to the Mystic Mother, the embodiment of all good magic, while the evil side wasn't really ever mentioned until Power Rangers Once and Always? Yeah, when Billy accidentally came across her energy and it took over Alpha, creating Robo-Rita. Also, the actress who played Rita in Zyuranger, I don't know the character's name, sorry, also played this wizard in Magiranger. So for funsies, why not make it Rita, considering there's actually a canonical way for it to work, complete with the bad dub and all.
You are giving me a headache!
Anyway, she's dead now. With our heroes at a severe disadvantage in the fight, Lianbo and Daggeron are fighting the Master, Udana is fighting Sculpin, and the Rangers are fighting the last remaining terror, Black Lance, with the bad guys winning at every turn. The Master strikes down Lianbo and Daggeron, Sculpin destroys Genji, and kidnaps Udana, and the Rangers are left beaten and unmorphed. Mystic Fate Part 2. Despite the Rangers' back being against the walls, they don't give up, Nick transforming into his Battleizer and fighting Black Lance, where the Rangers manage to pull through and destroy him. However, the Master has now made it to the surface, showing that he's destroyed Lianbo and Daggeron. And the Master transports the Rangers to a world full of darkness and despair. And Nick decides he can't do this anymore, alluding that he just wants to give up. But it's Maddie who doesn't let that happen.
You have held us together through all of this. You will not give up. We are a team, and you are this team's leader. We go on no matter what.
Motivated by his friends, Nick powers up and stands up to the Master, striking at him head on. And with his friend's strength, they manage to break free from the Master's hold, returning back to Earth, with the Master following behind. But he's not the only one who's still alive. The Mystic Mother actually used the spell to turn herself into magic to escape the destruction, and good energy still remains. Everyone then stands up to the Master, even Necroli and Itasis, who reveal they saved Udana and destroyed Sculpin, with Itasis shooting a powerful blast to destroy the Master. Both humans and magical beings meet together, building a bridge so everyone of any race can live peacefully. Lily also convinces her mother to use her magic to revive Daggeron, Lianbo, and Genji, but at the cost of her vampire form, turning her human.
Lily's mum is hot.
Hey, he said it, not me. Before we can tie a bow on this nice ending though, the Master grows giant. However, with everyone together, one by one, every single person stands up to the Master, proclaiming how they believe in magic. And with all that belief in spirits, they blast at the Master with a finishing blow, sealing him back where he belongs. With all the evil defeated, we see Nick getting ready to leave town again. Maddie, though, is sad to see him go. He doesn't exactly say he'll be back, but gives Maddie his old blanket, saying he will return for it. Back at the music shop, everyone is happy. Phineas and Lily are dating. Vita has dyed her hair pink, which I guess is character development. Claire is now a full-on sorceress and running Root Core. Nick is riding off on his motorcycle with his parents. And Fireheart is flying free. And with that, Power Rangers Mystic Force comes to an end. Wow, Seriously, wow. This season genuinely blew me away, and I wasn't expecting it to at all. Apart from one season we'll be talking about in the future, Mystic Force easily has the strongest narrative structure in Power Rangers history. There were literally only maybe 2 or 3 episodes I'd consider filler. This entire season from beginning to end was continuing a character's story in one way or another. The acting was a huge step up, the drama was really well executed, the twists and turns genuinely had me invested since I'm going in completely blind, and even the music was really good. The show still used generic stock music, but specifically the morphing tune was always getting me excited.
Magical source! Mystic Force!
It's nice they went the extra mile to get some music to match the show's theme. In terms of characters, Nick is the only one who really had any growth. And honestly, that's fine. All of these characters were perfect the way they were. Nick started off as a guy with no friends who didn't want to associate with people, to now having a genuine connection with not only his new friends, but his birth parents. Everyone else started out one way and stayed that way consistently, with little moments of changing. Chip was still goofy, Maddie was still shy, V was still tough, and Xander was still cocky. Again, they had moments of breaking out of those habits, but they're not really traits that I would consider bad or needing any kind of growth. It's what made them unique and likable, flaws and all. The villains were good, up to a point. The only complaint I really have is that after they save Leonbo and destroy Imperius, we are left with 10 random villains who don't really do anything or have any traits apart from they're evil and want to revive the Master. We didn't have enough time to really get to know these villains. As well as Necroli just taking a back seat, it really just kind of felt like the stakes were lower than ever. Maybe it's just because Mystic Force peaked pretty early. The Gatekeeper, Dark Wish, and Heir Apparent multi-parters were all so intense and felt like they could have been finales in their own right. Again, I'm just taken back at how great this season was. I thought I would hate this season and didn't want to waste my time. What a fool I was for missing out on that. If I had to pick a Power Rangers season to sum up the era it came out in, Mystic Force perfectly captures the vibe of kids and teenagers of that time. And while our stay in Briarwood was fun, I think it's time to expand our horizons and travel the world in search for our next treasure. Does that sound fun? Traveling the world and looking for treasure? Well, I sure hope it's just as fun as it sounds as we tune in next time and accelerate into Power Rangers Operation Overdrive.